So we'll look out for more from Senator Cooney on all of that. In the meantime, let's continue the conversation on upstate New York. If you live upstate, you know that investment in these cities is really just one part of the equation. There's also a lot of really unique challenges facing upstate communities right now, like a huge cost coming for businesses over unemployment during the pandemic. For that and more, I spoke this week with Justin Wilcox from Upstate United, an advocacy coalition based upstate. Justin, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course, anytime. So we are in the middle of state budget season. The governor has proposed her state budget. The legislature is now working on their own proposals for the state budget. You represent Upstate United. I want to know from your perspective, what does Upstate really need in this budget? It's an area of the state, big area of the state that's often been ignored by lawmakers in a really big way in terms of investment. So what do we really need in this spending plan?
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And I will tell you, having Governor Hochul, who's from Upstate, who understands the needs of Upstate, is incredible, right? What I saw in the governor's budget was, someone that actually understood that we need things like the brownfield cleanup program extended, because that's incredibly beneficial to Upstate New York. It doesn't only put properties back on the tax rolls and create more vibrant communities, creates healthier communities, right? We're removing toxins from the communities, and at the same time, we're creating economic activity. So it's a win-win. Love the fact that it's in there. Unfortunately, there's a new application fee, a $50,000 application fee. Would like to see that removed. That's a little bit of the old Albany. I'd like to see a little bit more of the new Albany with Governor Hochul, and acknowledgement that we do need to extend the program, but removal of the application fee, or at least lowering it significantly, would be much more beneficial.
We're talking about the exodus a little bit here from upstate New York. As you said, 300,000 people moving out of the state. It's been a trend that's going on in the state for quite a few years now. We've been level, or we've been declining. So, from your perspective, you're embedded in this. You have your finger on the pulse of the people of upstate New York. What do we need to do to keep people here? What do we need to do to attract people to upstate New York as a destination for people to move and start their careers and their families and just live here, or just stay here?
It's a great question, Dan. And one of the things that we look at is the tax environment, right? And unfortunately, New York State consistently ranks, the second worst for business tax climate in the nation. If you interview CEOs, they also say it's one of the worst states to do business in. So unfortunately, you're not going to get a lot of site locators and businesses wanting to move to upstate with such a burdensome tax environment and high cost of living, right? So we're chasing New Yorkers with our policies out of the state, and they're going to places like Florida. I mean, what does that say about New York when you actually have New Yorkers more willing to contend with alligators and hurricanes than they are the tax climate and the high cost of living in New York?
So what can we do about that in terms of the budget this year? The governor has proposed, for property taxes at least, she's proposed a rebate program. She wants to speed up income tax cuts for middle income earners, which makes a little bit of a dent for people, but I don't think the drop is really significant enough to keep people in upstate New York. So is it just those business taxes? How do we get right at that problem?
Yeah, no, you're right. And again, applaud the governor for going in the right direction. It's better than a poke in the eye, right? Having the governor speed up the middle class income tax, deduction and rebate is significant. But it's more, to your point, it's largely symbolic when you take a look at the years and the structural problems that we have in New York State, the high cost of living, the high taxes. So, again, we talked a little bit about the brownfield cleanup program. Well, another thing that the governor certainly could do, and we'd like to see our leaders in Albany do this, is do something about the unemployment insurance rates that are going to go through the roof. We're looking at potentially $9 billion of additional taxes that employers are going to have to contend with because of COVID, right? Because of the fact that we had to borrow significant amount of money from the federal government and that's got to get paid back. Anything we could do to assist our businesses with some alleviation of that additional burden that's going to be placed on them, again, through no fault of their own.
What happens if that money is not, if the state doesn't come up with that money to pay that back? In terms of, I know it's obviously going to vary by the size of the business, but what kind of burden does that put on a business if the state doesn't do that?
Look, some businesses are going to be facing incredible increases. I mean, we're talking well over 100% increase.
Wow.
That you're talking tens of thousands of dollars for some businesses. That's just related to the pandemic, though. Unfortunately, that's right. That's not what we've been talking about. A little bit of the structural issues that we've been facing for the past couple decades. So that's great, but I think again we need to do more when it comes to alleviating those high taxes that make us one of the worst in the nation, and the cost of living. So anything we could do in that regard so that we can bring more New Yorkers back, cutting taxes, that's something we'll certainly continue to applaud.
All right, well, we will see where it all heads this year. It's going to be a very exciting budget season. Justin Wilcox from Upstate United, thank you so much.
Thank you.